Hello again. Are we feeling a little bit better about that? I feel like we might be feeling better about this. I'm so sorry. What a stressful little afternoon. I'm very, very sorry. I know y'all's time is incredibly valuable. Um, please, thank you for being so patient about computers being a little bit the worst. Tina makes a solid point. What I did do very much so is turn it on and off again. Very, very lazy, but in this case, effective. Hello again, my loves. My absolute apologies. So today we're doing the very last lesson stream, which is going to be looking at the last project, but we're not just going away. So we're going to be right back here tomorrow, both of us, and we're going to talk to you about what's next. And just to preview the important things, one of the questions we always get in the boot camp is, I'm not finished. I love that y'all aren't finished. We do the boot camps really, really fast because we found when we stretch them out a little bit longer, it was really, really challenging for folks to keep up with that in their whole lives. We wanted to preview and say, let's talk about the topics, let's talk about the concepts, and give you space to go back and work on it on your own. Yeah. So the big thing, if bring me this question tomorrow, I love re-answering it. I'm not finished. We'll talk about that tomorrow. It's okay. We're still going to be in the Discord. We're still going to be hanging out, and we're going to talk to you about what we're going to do in future boot camps as well. Today, because it's just me and I'm the mean teacher, I'm going to be just talking to you about the Pokemon search app. We're not going to do it. We're not even going to write pseudocode. We're just going to talk. And when I say I do mean we're. It's collaborative. We're going to talk about this project and the steps we might want to take to break the problem down. And we had somebody yesterday who really pointed out saying, I'm not that fussed about Pokemon. So the first thing I'd love to ask folks is just looking at this. So we've got a search app, and we've got someplace we can display stats. I love Garbor. Is that how we spell it? Oh no, what is it? Trubbish. I got you, Trubbish. Thanks, man. Yeah. So we've got a Pokemon, we've got an image, and then we've got some stats. So I'd love to ask y'all, how could you refactor this if you're not that fussed about Pokemon? Later on your own time, after this project passes, what else could you do with this core code you're going to write? And I'm going to come back and start breaking this down. I know I said wouldn't write any code, but I will write some notes. So here, look at this, the cruelty. I'm going to get rid of the instructions. No HTML, no CSS, and no JavaScript. So we've been really intentionally having you all do more and more of the steps on your own, trying to sort of push our favorite fledgling birds out of the JavaScript nest. But here, Free Code Camp is doing the exact same thing and saying, hey, I want you to effectively write me this whole application. I want you to write me the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. And this can be massively overwhelming. One thing that Ramon taught us is that we can start with just a text box, just a text box for input, maybe, and then a submit button. And then maybe a div to show stats. And what I really want to push as we talk through this is the idea of a minimum viable product. And this is a concept we hear about in tech and especially startups a lot. And this is us saying we're going to build the teeniest, tiniest, smallest version of this that works. And then we're going to build it up so all the features live in it. So here, I'm going to get my instructions back. Goodbye, CSS. Goodbye, JavaScript for now. I know that I need an input element. And I'm going to make a note. So that fits one. Oh, I need a search button. That's going to be number 2. Oh, do you know what? There's a whole bunch of these that I need. Hmm. I'm going to put all of these Pokemon name, Pokemon ID. Wait, I'm going to put all of these in the stats for now. Later on, I can split them up, but I'm just thinking about what I need on my page or divs or elements. They should be divs because I need to push them in from the JavaScript when I find them, or I push them in from the API. So name, ID, weight, height, types. That's 3. Oh, attack, defense. 3 to 13. And all I'm doing right now is thinking about what I need in my HTML to show this to start planning how I'm eventually going to not even write my code, maybe write my pseudocode if that's how I want to do this. Okay. This 14, this feels like interactivity. This feels like, oh, hello. This feels like JavaScript stuff. So let's get JavaScript as well. CSS, we could talk about CSS later. And I don't even think we need this preview. So over here, we're starting to see some of the logic being defined. Here it says when search input element contains the value red and the search button is clicked, search button, we should get the text Pokemon not found. And this is telling us a very specific test it's going to use to try and pass. But really what it's describing to me, I think, is it's saying, hey, when you search for a Pokemon name that's not a real Pokemon, I want to see the Pokemon not found. Okay. I'm hmm. Should I and this is not necessary. So I'm not hello. I'm not doing anything to help y'all. I'm being so cruel. But what I really so you have a choice here. You can, when we're starting to break down this JavaScript, you can start breaking it down as objects. I need a thing that does this. I need a thing that does this. I need a thing that does this. Or you can do functional programming. I say, oh, I want this to flow, this function to drive this function to drive this function. Okay. And these are really, so they're going to use different features of JavaScript as we learned in previous lessons. And you can go back and check them if you want to review. It is not cheating to go back and look at your notes. And it is not cheating to go and reuse code from your earlier lessons. So really, I almost want to ask myself some questions. All of this is going to be bad. This is not real JavaScript. I'm the worst. Oh, what a silly thing to forget. How do you do it? Yeah. Question. So object or oriented or functional approach? And this is a question for you, like, hey, how do I want to do this? Looking at what's going on here, these values, Pokemon name, Pokemon ID. Number 15, when search input element contains the value Pikachu and the search button element is clicked, the values that we should see going to Pokemon name, Pokemon ID should be Pikachu, 25, 20. I'm going to ask you all, because I'm being mean. What do we think this should be? We're getting a bunch of information associated with Pikachu. Do we think this should be like a long string? Do we think this should be an array? Do you think this should be an object? Because I think there's, oh gosh, somebody who is not me could probably tell you this off the top of their head. But back when I was a kid, there were like 150 Pokemon, and I think there's several more now. So like, how do we want to access? Lisa, you make a really good point. I'm almost Monica, just exactly. Monica's like, I think that the way the API is going to give this to us, and Tina's like, we should destructure this object so we get the name popped out. Not pop is a specific term. The name destructured so we can pass that into the Pokemon name value. So I think the API is going to give us an object, probably a JSON object, that's going to give us this. And we might need to destructure it. That's another question. What do the objects, I'm even going to put a question mark after this, are they objects the API gives us look like? And I'm so sorry if this is especially unhelpful, but this is the process I always use on a new project. So I say, okay, for HTML, what kinds of things do I need on my page just to get started? What are the bare minimum of things I could put here just to get started, just so I can start writing some JavaScript logic and pushing stuff into the HTML? And then I like to look at the project and ask myself questions like, what do I need to know before I get started? So do I want an object-oriented or a functional approach? That's y'all's choice. I can't tell you. And then we've got a bunch of y'all saying, I think that these are going to be passed to us as objects via the API. I think I need to know what those look like to start making good decisions. Oh, so when the search input element contains a value Pikachu and the search button element's clicked, I should be able to see an image as well. Okay. Div for image. And this is number 16. We don't have to put these in any specific order. This is just the way it looked in the example, so I want to try it. And I really like going through and pulling out all the questions and pulling out the HTML that I'll need on the page, because this makes me do the thing I'm the worst at. This sort of makes you answer all of the questions. And speaking of which, I'm only going to go through the rest of this and pull out the questions and talk about them. So if you all have any questions that you have about this project, you go ahead and pop them in the chat. I know it feels like I'm abandoning you for this one, and I am, but this is a project where putting all of your like synthesizing all of your knowledge is going to be so good for you. Okay, so the types element. Ooh. Okay. This is something to remember. So when the search element contains the value Pikachu and the search button is clicked, the type should show as electric, and then the types should be cleared between searches. That's good to know, but I don't have a question about that. I'm okay. Okay, when the search button element contains the value 94, and this is showing us I know what this is asking me. This is a very sneaky way to do this. So up here on number 15, it says, hey, when you search for Pikachu, it should you should find a way to display all of the different attributes for the Pikachu object, little tiny baby object, in the appropriate divs or elements. Okay. So that says you should be able to search for a Pokemon by name. Cool, cool, cool. But when we come down here, it says, ha ha ha. When the search input element contains the value 94 and you press search, I should see the values of a different object for Gengar. And I love this because I'm evil, because what this is telling us is it's telling us a requirement in a really roundabout way. It's making you have a think. We're like, what is my boss? What is my client asking for when they ask for this? And here, I think what they're asking for is, I also want to be able to search by Pokemon number. Stephen makes a really good point. Say, hey, do you know what? We should review the Pokemon API URL. Yeah, I'm going to make us a note. So, to do, let's look at the Pokemon API docs. What does docs mean? Docs next. Yeah, y'all tell me what docs means. Okay. Okay, and we're still talking about number 94. So if I've searched for Gengar, obviously the coolest Pokemon. It should tell me, oh, so so when I search for Pikachu, Lisa, thank you so much. The documentation. Oh, and this is a good time to talk about sort of after the boot camp stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about open source projects tomorrow and contributing to open source projects. But making documentation changes, making documentation upgrades for folks is a really, really good way to learn more about an open source project, but also start getting some little open source contributions as you build your understanding on the project and get ready for code ones or fall in love with documentation. So earlier when we were talking about Pikachu, it said, hey, for Pikachu, show me that Pikachu is an electric type in the types field. Okay, okay. And here it says, when you've searched for Gengar using the value 94, you should show two types because Gengar is both a ghost and a poison Pokemon. So this is really telling me in a very roundabout way, hey, some of your Pokemon will have one type, some of your Pokemon will have two types. Are there any? Oh, this is a genuine question. Are there any Pokemon with more than two types? Okay, so those are all the user stories. None of our tests will pass. This is not even pseudocode. This will not help us. But what we can do is come all the way up to the top because Stephen made such a good point to say, hey, let's take a look at the documentation. Let's take a look at what this Poca API. Oh, I don't want to search for that. Please give me the address. Thank you. Oh, look at this. This is very. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how to feel about this, but on a scale from, I'll make this a little bit bigger. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being, I completely understand this and this is not stressing me out at all, and 10 being like, what is this? I want to cry. How do we feel about this documentation? Yeah. I was just like, 1 to 10, how do we feel? And Jade was just like, depressed. I'm gonna put that at a solid 7, right? I don't mean Crunch is just like, "Oh, Jess, this is a 6. This is, like, more bad than good." And Lisa, so soft and gentle, is like, "It's a little bit much, just a little." But do you know what? JavaScript can only hurt us if we let it. Let's talk about what's on this page and see if we can make it a little bit less scary. Let me continue to bigify this. Bigify is a technical word. It's not. Is that as big as I can get? Oh. Ha ha ha. Okay, okay. So use the endpoint https pokeipproxy.freecodecamp.rocks/API/Pokemon to see a list of all valid Pokemon names, ID numbers, and URLs. What's an endpoint? What's going on? What's wrong? Nothing is wrong. No, I mean, the world is big and scary, and a lot of things are wrong. This right now, this can't hurt us. Because when we look at this, do you know what? I don't know what an endpoint is yet. I mean, I do, but I also want to encourage you to look it up because I think, but this looks like a web address, doesn't it? What happens if I put this in my browser? What's it going to show me? What's that? Okay, 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 okay. This looks scary again, right? I just told you that JavaScript can't hurt you. And look at what this is doing. We're cool. We're cool. Everything's cool. So the first thing we can do is pretty print. And pretty print made this look a lot less stressful. Actually, it Lisa's like right here. Lisa, do you know why this looks like a list of objects? This is a list of objects. These are JSON objects. These literally can't hurt us. Mehmet's right here. Mehmet's like, Jess, I think this is Jason dating. Both of you loves are absolutely durably, undeniably correct. So this is showing us. So we went to the URL for the API, and the endpoint that we're using is API slash Pokemon. So the endpoint of an API is going to be that stuff on the end of it. Jane's asking, why does it not have the JSON in the URL? So there's only certain things we can put in the URL. We can put we can put some sort of logical operators that give us a little bit more logic. And do you know what? Let's do that in a second, okay? Tina, you got me. Tina's like, this is such a good way to say it. So we're going to go in the next step and we're going to change the number that's on the end. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I know. And I'm going to share it again because I want y'all to be able to see. Ha ha ha. I want you to be able to see this URL. Unfortunately, can I make that bigger? Oh, no, I can't. So here, very tiny, uncruelly tiny, we've got API slash Pokemon. And Tina's saying, hey, let's go back one. And we can use the endpoint. Let's talk about this. Use the endpoint, PokeAPI -proxy.freecodecamp.rocks /API /Pokemon. That's where we just were, not a problem. And actually, let's put you back. Let's leave this endpoint up. Okay, let's pretty print that. So here we've got this endpoint, the end of our URL where we're querying this API. It says Pokemon. That's the endpoint we're looking at. And this gives us a list of all the Pokemon. And here we're going to use the endpoint HTTPS. Oh, and then we've got these curly babies. And Jane was asking, why can't we have JSON in the URL? Do we think this is going to work? Do you think I could put curly babies in a URL? Boop, boop. So that didn't work, and it's turned our curly babies into these 7. It's stripped them out and turned them into the encoding it would show. But Lisa has got this, and it's given us a message. So the endpoint I tried to go to isn't a valid endpoint. So here I've got, oh gosh, this might be a good question. What's people's favorite Pokemon, please? I think I might be like, I like the little trash bag baby. So if I don't get an answer super, super fast, I'm going to get the trash bag baby again. Oh, do you know what? I might get the big. Oh, Pikachu. Pikachu always gets attention. Wait, what's the big white cat? Oh no, now we've got conflicts. I was like, please give me one favorite Pokemon, and I made a mistake. Ha ha ha. But since I'm the boss, we're going to get the big trash bag baby, Garbor. And here we've got Poke. we'll look at all y'all's Pokemons that you like. So we've got Pokemon here, where I tried to search for the Wiggly Braces. It said that's not a real thing. But if I give it this Pokemon name, okay, wait. This is stressful again. Let's pretty print this and see if this gets less stressful. Okay. So this was stressful a second ago, and like I didn't like it. I imagine you didn't like it either. But now we're on a valid endpoint. So what we saw a second ago when we try, if I search for API Pokemon and I go to the Jess endpoint, it says, this is our error message, invalid Pokemon name or ID. It says, look, Jess is not a Pokemon. She's tired, but not a Pokemon. So let's get Mewtwo. I'm told it's a Pokemon. Okay. And if we pretty print this, we change the formatting into an object formatting we're used to. This is a valid endpoint on our API. And a valid endpoint just means that if you've got the right credentials, and we don't need a password or anything for this, so we're already in. Sometimes you'll need a API token or some kind of credentialing to get information from an API. This one, we're okay. We're not going to introduce that complexity until until y'all are working on side projects in your own time. Here we've got a valid endpoint for Pokemon. And we've got, okay, base experience height. So here we've got these URLs for sprites. And this is going to I think this is going to show us pictures of, oh, heck, what these Pokemon look like. Oh, look how tiny. Oh, Jane, I don't mean to pick on you, but you've described this as like a big white cat, and this looks more like my cats than a proper cat. Okay, so this is giving us, remember this question? Oh, hang on. I'm going to take this documentation over here. Remember this question I left for myself? Oh, which is gone now. Never mind. One of the questions I left for myself is, what do the objects that we're going to get back about each of these Pokemon look like? And we've got them right here. Oh, oh no. So this looks like we're still going to have to do a little bit of digging. So we've got, I want the name. Where's the name? Name. Okay, the name. Here's the sprites. So we want it to display a sprite. And here's where I can get those via the API. The ID is the number. Okay, so this is still scary, but looking at this object once it's been pretty printed, I'm starting to see what the structure of this is and what I might need to pull out of this and push, pop, uh, inject, which we don't always want to do, but here it's a trusted API. What we might want to put into those labeled divs. Okay. So, ooh. So this is giving us an important piece of documentation. So here, without explicitly teaching us how to do this, this API proxy documentation has taught us a couple of really valuable things about an API. The first thing is, oftentimes we can take an API and take the URL and throw it into our browser and see what it does. So, oh, cool. What do you have? What are you going to show me? That's great. And we've also learned that endpoints are a valid endpoint is that last bit of that URL, but giving it information it needs. So here, when we're looking at a Pokemon endpoint, it looks like we've got the option to give it a name. Where are you? Like we've done here for Mewtwo. Or we could give it an ID number. 151. Oh, we got a pretty. It's okay. It's okay. We're not going to get overwhelmed by a big block of code. We're just going to break it down. And here we've got a Mew. I've used the endpoint Pokemon /151, and that's valid. So I've got a Mew. And actually, I'd love to see what a shiny Mew looks like and see if it's a little bit less scary than a Mewtwo. Very, very important part of this lesson. Oh, it's so cute. I mean, again, in kind of a goblin way. Okay. But it's also about to teach us something important about how this API requires. Oh, towers, like we could use console log to see. Oh, we could have also used console log to like console log this object and see how we want to style it. Would have been another way to do it. Thank you. This is giving us a hint about how we need to structure our endpoints. And this is saying, if you give it a Pokemon name, it's got to be all lowercase. And if the Pokemon has a male sign or female as part of its name, the format is name-f or name-m, respectively. So I think that this I think that this is actually both telling us something really important about how we format API endpoints, which is usually API endpoints will have a very specific way that it wants us to give us a request. So if I say, where are you? Hello. If I say, Mehmet, you liked Bulbasaur? Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur. So if I say Bulbasaur, like this, but if I say Bulbasaur with a capital B, oh, oh, here in the browser, it automatically turned back into a lowercase b. That's kind of cool. Oh, so Steven's saying like, hey, is this kind of note we're seeing standard on APIs, or is this kind of a subtle hint for free code camp learners on how to structure our code? Both. So even though it doesn't say documentation on here, what we're looking at is the documentation for the Poke API proxy. And if your endpoints need to be structured in a specific way, here you want name. Oh, for bonus points that cannot be redeemed and earn you nothing. What are the two Pokemon that have a male or female sign as part of its name that we would have to add the -F or -M to? um, but these kind of notes in API documentation would be something we'd see to say, hey, just to let you know, there's something a little bit unusual or there's something a little bit unexpected about how you need to format your endpoints. I'm just going to let you know as part of this documentation. And I love. Oh wait, no, that actually cheats and shows y'all the bonus question. So here, I really like that it goes ahead and gives us examples. So, oh, Jane. So you could you could find out who is you could search through all of the Pokemon to find the male or female one using regex, or we could scroll down and it's Nidoran, which is the only Pokemon that comes in boy or girl versions that are separate types of Pokemon species. That's not how that works. Um, But here it's giving us examples, and the examples are good to click on and say, okay, I'm getting more and more contact with how this is shaped. This is, oh, are the female and male shiny Pikachus different? What? Oh, I love you so much. I also don't love that it's front shiny and front shiny female. Kind of very default male vibe, but hmm. I think the female has like a little heart-shaped tail. All right. Wait, where are we? Where are we? So one thing I really like in this documentation is it's showing us examples, which don't just let us click through and see, but it also lets us look again and again and say, okay, so the only thing we're seeing changing is we're seeing the endpoints, the Pikachu as a name or the 25 change. We're seeing the Nidoran F for the girl Nidoran. Oh, let me see a shiny one of these. I've never seen one. This is not the best use of y'all's time, is me looking at shiny Pokemon and making a little chirping sound. I just think it's very cute. um, this is giving us more and more opportunities to look at this. And one thing I really like about this is we're starting to look at APIs we've done some stuff with APIs before, but we're really calling individual endpoints for the first time. And it's given us actually really good documentation and a pretty simple API. Pretty simple does not mean this is going to be easy. This is still going to be I'm so sorry. This is still going to be pretty stressful and a little bit painful. But the pain is gonna be that kind of stretchy pain. They're like, "Oh, no, I'm stuck. I've gotta keep going. Oh, no, I can't work this out. I'm gonna go take a nap and come back." So, I want y'all's lives to be soft. I want y'all's lives to be absolutely buffeted by calm joy. Unfortunately, the sort of zone of proximal development we've talked about, that zone where you expand what you know and what you can do, involves a little bit of like tussling with ideas in order to get those ideas to really center themselves. One thing I was so delighted to see in the Discord was I saw two different folks who said, "Hey, I went back." I mean, not me, I haven't gone back to past lessons, but these learners said, "I went back and looked at past lessons that I thought were really hard at the beginning of the course, and they're actually not scary anymore. They're not hurting me anymore." And that's because the tussling with, the fighting with those topics you did went ahead and expanded your zone of proximal development. So now the things that you have to fight with to start to don't actually fight the Pokemon. Now that the concepts you have to like really struggle with to make them work are so much further than they are when you started. So I'm so sorry that in a second I'm going to abandon you all to begin to struggle. Oof. This is why we didn't have Ramon on this call, because like go go out into the JavaScript world and suffer, my loves. Um is a very morbid thing to say, but like my homework for you, if it's not a bother, is first give me any questions you might have. I see one right now, and it's a very good question. I'll get that in just a second. Give me any questions you might have, and I'll joyously try to answer them, except for I'm not really going to do the code for y'all. I'll look at the documentation with you. I'll look at like where we might look for more answers. But I'm really, unfortunately, largely abandoning y'all to each other and to the 3 big steps. So if you get stuck, if you don't know what's going on, you can ask someone. Not us this time, we're being terrible. You can look it up, and you're gonna be looking a lot of this stuff up. There's a ton of resources out there, but you can also get weird, you can experiment. So we're gonna be right back here tomorrow. It'll be both of us, and we're gonna be talking about what you can do next. We're going to be talking about the plans for the boot camp for next year, and we're going to be talking about how things go. Yeah. Tower saying, wait, 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 wait. We can still ask questions after the boot. Of course, after the boot camp, after the live streams finish, the videos don't go away. Um, Ramon and I don't go away, and the Discord doesn't go away. We might be a little bit quiet for a week or two, 2 or 3 days, just because we're gonna, like, take little naps and watch bad TV, get a little bit of time back. But we're still gonna be around, we're still actively gonna be moderating it, we're still gonna be answering questions, and your peers are gonna be in there too, and folks who've graduated from past boot camps. Y I'm abandoning you, but only lightly abandoning you. Yeah. We're gonna be right back tomorrow. What's do you know what's really exciting? Since he's not here, and I bet he won't have time to watch this video, do you know what's gonna be really, really fun? So your homework is, um, have a play with the Poke API and start writing down the questions that you would wanna ask yourself in order to start planning this project. You don't need to do it right away, but your homework is to, like, experiment with the API and just start writing out those questions to yourself. Yeah. Your bonus homework, and you can't say I said this, is um, I'm the mean teacher, but my co-teacher is delightfully emotional. And so that's what you get for being nice, is you're touched by the world. So your homework is to have a play with the API, start writing the questions. Definitely, definitely don't try and make Ramon cry tomorrow by telling him that he's a wonderful teacher and very nice. That would be a terrible thing to do. Definitely don't do that. Luckily, no one can make me cry but me. Monica's saying, hey, could we keep the community going? Monica, we've been running these boot camps for about 5 years now. I promise we're not going away. Yeah. I mean, I think we'd have a hard time disappearing even if we wanted to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll be around. We might be a little bit quiet for a week or 2, but we're not gonna vanish. Can you imagine us not having Wi-Fi? Oof. I will joyously let you go. Your big homework, test out the API, just experiment, just get used to seeing that scary flash of Jason, and then calming down as it gets less and less scary every time, and breaking out the questions that you wanna ask yourself to get started. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all are always absolutely delightful to learn with. I'm not gonna cry tomorrow. I'm gonna be absolutely gutted to not see y'all every single day, but Discord is still there and we're not going anywhere. I'll see y'all tomorrow, okay? Bye, my